Hi everyone, welcome to our new series of How to Master Your Opening. I'm Filippo. So last week we finished with discussing the two star points for both black and white and how white should respond to this tri-star opening. So we reviewed, let's say, the variations of using this kind of things. So this week we'll try to start some new topic about what if black use other ways to develop the right hand side module. For example, this nice move, or nice move here, or some other side kind of stones other than this tri-star. So let's begin with this nice move from the downside. So our traditional theory of opening suggests that if black protects a corner, as for white, you don't want black to have another solid corner here, because again it's very hard for white to invade now because the corner is very solid, and the only way to deal with it is try to invade on the side. And we know that the more choice, the easier you can invade the side. So now the focus of white is, of course, diverted to the top side. So how should white invade this corner? So normally there are three approaches. 1, 2, 3. And today we'll discuss the two approaches. Let's see the top one first. So the logic behind this approach is very simple. I have a white stone on the top left side. I want to use this as a support of this approach so that later on, no matter we start a fight or have a trade, then white will choose some side to develop its own potential. So by responding this, there are several ways to think. First is, of course, continue to develop the right hand side, which is either using this nice move or one space jump. Second is using pincers, for example, this. The third one is more trendy in the AI time, which is either this one or this one. Let's see. So first, black wants to protect or using a defensive approach. And the most defensive approach you can get is this lower nice move here. So the logic behind this is that I want to solidly protect this star point. Later on, when we start a fight on the right hand side, even though I have a chance of making white very strong on the side, for example, let's say the shape is like that. This third nice stone will still make black a comfortable and strong shape on the top right side. And I can easily protect the corner by one single move. The bad thing, however, for this nice shape is that even though white tenuki, there is no severe follow-up to attack this stone of approach. White may now want to, for example, tenuki or protect. Even if you extend out, there is no much severe follow-up for this. If you go here, this is a very immediate good point for white to deal with these two white stones. White can also choose to attach. We've seen this a lot now in top players' game. So black may not want to capture these 4 stones directly because it will allow white to be very strong on the top left corner, and it's very hard for black to reduce it. So nonetheless, this move is too defensive. So in this case, black may want to just simply tanuki or play something like that. But my personal opinion is that it's a bit difficult to handle in this case. The more, if we don't look at the win rates of the AI suggestion, the more human thought of opening is that since I want to develop the right hand side moil, I want to play something more aggressively. So that first, it's easier for me to develop it further. Second, if you tanuki, I can attack you. So if you continue to tanuki in this case, I can attack you in a more severe way because now there is no immediate good point for you to deal with these 2 stones. So what I can do? So we know that the traditional Joseki is nice move here and get back. The problem is that after this Joseki, this sente is very uncomfortable for white. Because if you tanuki, because you don't want black to get these 2 stones in sente, but if you tanuki, this exchange is it's very huge in terms of points. It reduces 4-5 points for white and increases 4-5 points for black. It's almost 10 points, plus potential eye space there. So after this exchange, white is not completely settled, which clearly affects later on when you are trying to reduce the center. But if you respond, these 2 stones already very much helped the right hand side moil, even though later on you have some ways to break through. Black can simply just push. If you go out, I push, then this right hand side wall will be stronger and stronger. It's then very hard for white to reduce the right hand side moil. So in order not to give this sente to black, white will need to play something like this. But nonetheless, this 4th line stone gives less control to the side on the top right side. After this kind of exchanges, black can destroy the top side easily. In this case, white is not very efficient in terms of opening. So how to improve it? The most clear way of improving this is this move. This forcing move is suggested by AlphaGo, and the logic behind it is that no matter what you respond to it, white will have some help in the center, which will be then much more difficult for black to develop the right hand side. So there are 3 ways to respond to it: this way, and this way. We'll study the simplest way first. So if I connect, there is some good point and bad point. So the good point is that first, the 3-3 invasions no longer exist. If you play this 3-3, we can see that this block is not very severe. So no 3-3. White will have to do this nice move to reduce the corner. But now we can see that the value of 3-3 is further reduced Because if I play the 3-3 now, this forcing move would be too good for white. I mean, because imagine if white is playing the forcing move now, definitely black will need to place the stone somewhere else. For example, considering this, push and cut, or get the head up, other than simply connect. Even this one is bigger than connecting. So in this case, black will need to tenuki. Where to tenuki, for example, place a move here and get the side, or just take the corner, or take that corner, or something else. But the one important thing to notice is that this 3-3 is still very big for white. And although white has no follow-up of this, white will have an attack on this side. In this case, because this forcing move makes black heavy, it's a bit hard for black to deal with these 3 groups. Because if you are heavier, it's harder for black to trade for the battles later on. So, since this cutting is very severe, black will not want to leave some spaces of invasion between this 3 zone and one side zone. So, although this seems very natural, actually it's not very good. So, in terms of follow-up, if you are playing this kind of Joseki, white plays the 3-3 now, maybe the more suitable places to play the side stone is perhaps here or here instead of here. But however, I mean, although this connecting is playable, there are some other ways to other variations, which is also, I mean, at least more suitable for black to develop the right hand side instead of just simply connecting, because connecting is almost like I want to connect to somewhere else. The other way to develop the right hand side is either playing this one or this one. If black plays here, definitely white cannot just simply extend. Because if black connects, definitely we see that this exchange helps nothing, but just used up the RG in the 3-6. We also know that there's RG here, some RG there. So by placing this move, it helps the black. So before extend here, white will need to destroy the shape of black. If black blocks, now white can extend back. Since the ladder work here, besides, white can choose some complicated variations if you are comfortable with your reading. Remember, this must be played when this ladder works. So actually, in this case, of course, the ladder works. But what if black has an approach here? Then this ladder doesn't work, and you will need to play somewhere like here. So it's still playable, but I think black would be more comfortable with initiating this fight. Maybe. Or push. In this case, it's a bit not very easy for white to handle 2 weak groups after being cut by black. But if this ladder works, definitely black cannot tolerate this ladder. Black will have to save the stone by connecting from the outside. Now the thing is more trickier because it will be very difficult to handle the corner and the outside. This is not, I don't think this is bad for white, but it's too difficult to handle for amateur players. So instead, the easier way to do this opening is just extend back. Because by putting a stone here, it creates 2 cut points for black, which means that no matter where black plays, the weakness cannot be protected on both sides. So if black chooses to place a stone in the corner, of course, the corner is not very safe. But we can say that there's the extra cutting point here, which means that the head to the center is now much weaker than this shape. Which means that strategically, white achieves the purpose of limiting the potential on the right-hand side. Now white can comfortably just get my stones back as safely. Later on, no matter where you play, this cutting point will hinder the development of the right-hand side model. But if black plays the stone on the right side, of course, there is this follow-up. Although white may choose not to realize this follow-up now, because the second extension is reduced by this exchange. But white can always reserve this choice and just place the center. Now it's like we can say that black is not very willing of just wasting another move here to protect the corner because it's too slow. But if you don't play this, the tree is still very big. So later on, this is still totally acceptable for white, even though it seems that I give away some points on the side. So that's a variation of this. The third response for black is to push. So this is actually after reading what's the purpose of white, which is limiting the right-hand side potential, the counterattack. So in this case, black wants to make this forcing move a bad move by pushing the head forward and strengthen the potential or the model on the right side. So the only response for white in this case is get the 2-3. And it's almost a one-way road for both players in this case. Which means that if this is a one-way road, which means that you have to be very confident playing this variation when you play this forcing move, as for white. Up to here now, it's almost certain that this situation will happen if black chooses this variation. So after this, white can choose to extend the corner. If black plays very stupidly like capture, white is one liberty ahead. But black can choose to play Atari from the first line. If white connects, black can attach and connect. The cutting point is too severe, so white can almost cannot stand with this cutting point, and it almost leads to inevitably will lead to some difficult fight for white. So white will need to protect the cutting point somehow, either by this tiger mouse or by jumping here. Jumping here would be the AI suggestion, but this one is totally fine. So now black is one liberty ahead, but white is still not bad in this situation because this shape is very complete and strong. Although black gets the 5th time potential, white also gets the 5th time potential. And what black have is 10 points in the corner, which is the value of a corner if you want to judge. So normally if there is a start point, we really count it as 10 points. So in this case, this result is acceptable for both players. Another choice for white now is try to start the call. But in this case, the direction is not very good because black cannot cut. If you extend a capture, and then it's very hard for you to find a call thread. And this cut already has some value because now you cannot use one single stone to make your shape very complete. So if you dismiss the call, however, I just extend out. This turret becomes immediate threat, so perhaps you need another move here, but which means that the center is almost lost. Even though white gets 5 points in the corner and destroys the side points of black, the center is too big. So if white is not very happy about losing a corner, however, white has a way to save the corner, which is this. By playing this variation, if black continues the turret on the first line, white will not make this exchange. White will start the call immediately. So if black captures, oh, there is an extra stone here. White can simply just play somewhere else. Now it's like black don't want to waste another move here because it's too wasteful. But if you tanuki somewhere else, when white comes back, there's no suitable coasters. You have to cut to connect. Then the corner is a bit complicated, and it's not clearly that white will die in the corner. So you cannot Atari here. What about playing here? We know that now white is dead, but white cannot extend. If you play here now, instead of making a call here, I'm one step very alive with 5 points in the corner. Now I'm very happy about it. So what black can do is now just ignore the corner, attach. If you play here, black will just capture you. So it's almost returned to the previous result. The only difference is that black has a capture here and black extend in this variation, which is the same, because nonetheless the 5 stones are dead. But white can also choose to leave. In this case, it's almost similar to the previous result, but the difference is that later on, white has only 2 points in the corner. Plus, black may have an extra 1 point here. So this is almost 4 points difference, which makes this variation now acceptable for black. Later on, this is a follow-up. So black has no chance of exchanging now. So in this case, white will need to count how many second line stone it needs to kill black. In this case, it's already enough. So definitely black cannot allow these stones to be captured. So black will have to attack back, and now white harness out, which becomes a fight. In this case, we can see that although white takes the corner, white takes the top, but both are not very comfortable manner, so it's like only a few points. But nonetheless, black has fewer points than white, and although the center point is weak and heavy, black is not very settled also. So the win rate of AI says that this is an equal fight, so let's assume it's acceptable for both players. So this is pretty much the variations for this corner. Of course, there are some other variations, like for example, white reserves the variation in the corner and then play the side or honey. Oh, no, not honey. Just play the center or whatever. But the logic is the same, because if you play somewhere else, black will just attach and capture the corner. So it makes not much difference. So after seeing what will happen here, let's see some trick moves for this variation. So in some handicap games, it's very commonly seen that white plays something like this. This point is actually the weakness of this one space jump, because it's a 4th line stone. Definitely you have some weaker spot on the 2nd line in the bottom. However, it's a bit too aggressive in terms of invading right now, because if black gets here, black jumps, or black plays this exchange first and jump, we can see that actually this 3 stone is very hard to deal with. I mean, it's very heavy. If I have one extra stone here, it's very hard for white to comfortably just make ice spaces, and then almost it has to play this kind of pointless moves to the center. As for black, I can easily make a comfortable living, protect the corner in the down there. If you play here, I'll just take the corner or do whatever I want, or continue my momentum of attacking. So if you see this move, just don't panic. We can see that these 2 stones are together and has at least are easy to deal with within 1 step of move. So just don't defend like this, because it will strengthen both sides of white. But however, you just attack, drive white outside, and then separate it into 2 weak groups, and then it will be very comfortable to deal with. That's pretty much the variation led by this one space jump. I'll reserve this strategy to the following lectures. And we've seen a lot about this kind of Pincer, so I won't spend too much time on it. So let's go to the approach from the other side. So the logic behind from this and this is not very similar. So if I approach from this side, I want to get some support from my start here. But for this, the invasion kind of mindset is more important. So if black continues to use some defending strategy like this, nice move or jump, white can first take this right side, destroy it very easily. Secondly, maybe some attach to settle. It's all very easy. So in this case, the more natural human way of opening is try to use some Pincer to further develop the moil on the right side. But let's see the defensive moves first. Again, first, the nice move. So if white plays the traditional move, we know that there is some classic joseki there. This is a classic joseki, which is outdated now because we now know that this joseki is clearly good for black. Black can even place the stone maybe somewhere here. Black is too complete and white is too small. By improve it, white invents something like this second name extend. Or it's now, although black is still very complete, but at least white has bigger territory in the corner, which is at least somewhat better off. But nowadays, fewer and fewer people are playing this synchronized move now, because it allows black to achieve what they want. So black wants to have a moil on the right hand side. So we want to destroy their planning and try to do some counter attack by attach. So no matter what you choose, I mean, there's only one variation you can for black to continue this momentum, which is to extend down. If black cut in, down there, you can just connect, and then now it's a complete wall there. So white will have to cut. And then either black push here or play here. This fight is very complicated. Or something like this. Now this is a crucial move. After this exchange, now white can sacrifice the 3 stones in the center. Okay, so these variations are all acceptable for both black and white. It all depends on the choice and how you're confident about dealing with using this RG or developing the moil. If black choose not to play this variation, however, then we can see that white can leave it easily. And then the connection of these two corners is almost destroyed. Though you can invade, now it's like it's very hard for black to realize the realize the benefit of playing first, and the combing will be a heavy burden for you. And besides this traditional attach, I would like to spend some time saying this. We've seen a lot of variation on this, or this, and I'll save it for later lectures. Today, just for this one. So when we see this double knight move here, we immediately see if there seems some weakness there. What if I play here to cut it? Definitely, white will not try to connect in this way because it will make the shape very ugly. And it's not alive yet. So white is trying to play somewhere else. If you attack it from inside, then it's kind of, then the point is very much reduced and white is too strong outside. If you attack it from the outside, black cannot connect from the bottom because now this character and this is both working for white. So black will have to connect. And then this ladder is not very important. In this case, because this is your star point, the ladder doesn't work. If the ladder doesn't work, then the RG of this cutting point is too bad for black to accept it. White can simply just invade wherever you want, and this RG will definitely help a lot. So what black can do? A better way to respond it is to play the 3-3. Now if white plays here, it returns to the attach and Atari variation. If white extends back, then it seems that white is playing some unnecessary move here, which is bad for white. But white can play somewhere here. If black tries to Tanuki, then this double tiger mouse is very good shape for white. So black will need to respond. So how to respond it? If I play this, it seems that black is still not very comfortable about it. Because in this case, you definitely don't want this extra move on the 3-3 because it's almost like this shape. Normally, we play one extra tiger mouse move to protect the corner. But in this case, you allow white to get this benefit in ascending, which is definitely, white is definitely very satisfied about it. So what black can do? Pincer. If white plays a tiger mouse, do not connect because this is too good a shape for white. Extend here. In this case, the wall outside is very complete. Black reserves the rights of ascending here. So the cutting point out there is not very severe. In this case, although white takes the corner, black achieves its purpose of developing the moil on the right side in a relatively efficient manner. In this case, I would say that this is totally acceptable for black. Another way to respond to this tricky move is to ignore it. So, for example, I play this approach. Remember, I'm not simply tanuking. I'm trying to make the ladder work. So if you respond, I'll just cut you. In this case, I'll get the ladder work and make white bad. So in this case, you will have to respond somewhere, for example, here or here. But if you play the 3-3, the shape is more weird than this one. We know this is acceptable for black, so this is definitely acceptable for black. If you play somewhere here, I saved this exchange, which is good for black. So we can see that even if you ignore it, white has nothing to do there. And it's totally fine for black to leave this shape there. So after this, what if black plays here? So in this case, white is more comfortable playing this now because I have this star to limit the potential on the top right side. And so no matter what you choose, it's very hard for black to get the connection between this corner and that corner. In this case, so the one space jump is not opening, shows clear planning. So the more, as I said, that the more human openings always show your logic. If you want to develop the right-hand side model, you want to develop it from the beginning to the end and make connection to all your stones. In this case, the pincers would be a better or more, at least more comprehensive way of doing opening. No matter what pincer you use, 3-3 is always acceptable. If you play this one space lower pincer, however, now black face a very difficult situation because we can see that although the right-hand side model is definitely what we want to develop, there are two very good points for white to invade. First is this shoulder head or this star point. The second one is this shoulder head. No matter where you play, these two shoulder heads will be a suitable point of invasion for white to deal with. White will not immediately invade because this invasion doesn't create any value for white. It just reduces the value of black. What white will do is try to protect its own corner. Now we can see that black is quite difficult in terms of following up. Because if you try to invade white's corner and keep the territory in a balance, you gave up this corner very easily. You allowed white to have two solid corners. Now it's very hard to catch up the territory difference if you do not utilize this potential very well. But if you want to develop this model by you investing more in the center, you can see that these two good points of shoulder head will eventually cost you because no matter what you play here, it's very hard for black to get a complete model because this shoulder head is there. So a very realistic way of developing a model on the right-hand side is that do not give white two good points of invasion. You already have one shoulder head here, so do not give another. So this one space pincer, although it's still playable in AI's view, it's not very consistent of what black wants to achieve. So maybe some more suitable way of pincer is second line or third line higher pincer. If you take the corner, I'll spend one extra move here, hunting out. In this case, the only good point for white is here now. So if you continue to play something like this, if I dismiss this good point for white, now it's a bit hard for white to consider how to invade this model. So what white will do, however, is not simply following what black thinking. White will do something like here or here. If you play, for example, this, there will be some very trendy AI variations. The key point for this variation is that black will need to save this Atari as a code thread. If you connect, then black will probably do some Atari or whatever things. Maybe this one, or maybe approach. If white chooses not to start the code, white will need to connect, and then black plays tag mouse. This is acceptable for result for both players, but I think that black has enough reason to be satisfied about this, because the corner is very elastic. Even though later on you may choose to escape this white stone, but even though you cut me to two halves, black can still have enough space to make a living in the corner. However, from the top, because of the weakness of this point, this Pincer will be very severe and very uncomfortable. It's almost certain that white needs to protect it in this way. If you protect it in this way, this head is no longer very valuable in terms of developing the model on the top. There is some other variations. For example, if you for white can connect or push. If you connect, white takes the corner. These kind of variations are quite similar, but no matter which variation you choose, we can see that black still have a potential connecting from the top right corner to the bottom right corner. And the efficiency of the black stones are all at moderate level, which means that if all your stones on the board are quite efficient, there is no reason why the opening is bad for you. Of course, there are some other ways. For example, this. No matter which Joseki you play, you can still see this side stone has its own usage. It connects the bottom right corner to the side and helps the fight down there. So when we choose the follow-up later on, white will need to be very careful, because you cannot make my outside very strong. Because if black is very strong on the bottom right side, it's very likely that black can save a stone and make this territory very big. So in this case, at least black would have some plans to do, or the follow-ups to develop, to utilize the benefit of playing first. So that's all for today's lecture. Today we discussed what will happen if black protects the corner first, and what will happen if white plays the approach from the top side or the right side. In the next lecture, we'll learn how to deal with the 3-3. What will happen if black goes from here or goes from here? There will be completely different mindset, and the ladder and the follow-up will be very important in terms of the 3-3 just like. Okay, thank you for watching today's lecture. I'm Filippo. If you enjoy watching our video, please like us and follow us on our social media. And do share your comments with us, and feel free to discuss with us what you would like to see in the future lecture, and we'll start our series. See you next week, and thank you. Bye.